I don't have, statistical data to back this up, but I suspect that the most common reason for a Christian apologist to talk about illusionism in the philosophy of mind is to argue against it, and say, hey, we need to believe in immaterial stuff to account for consciousness. Eventually, this posit is used in an argument for God's existence. But today, I'm not doing that. I thought it would be fun to create a theodicy based on illusionism. Let's jump into things. One of the most famous puzzles in philosophy is the hard problem of consciousness. How do physical brains give rise to phenomenal consciousness? If someone looks at a red apple, I can describe all the physical facts going on. I could describe the properties of the apple, how the eye works, how the brain works, and so on. But even after you describe all these physical facts, there is still something missing. What does it feel like to see the color red? A blind man can know and understand all those physical facts without knowing what the phenomenal state of seeing red is like. Philosophers are rather interested about the nature of these phenomenal states. What are they? Where do they come from? One strategy for dealing with this problem is simply denying that there are phenomenal states. Consciousness, as we normally think of it, doesn't exist. Illusionists, in particular, say that our brains are lying to us. Our brains tell us we are conscious, that there is something that it is like to see the color red, even though it doesn't actually exist. Here's an analogy to hopefully clarify. Research shows that the brain manipulates the data you get from your eyes. For example, when you move your eyes to look at something, the eyes are temporarily moving super fast. For this short moment of time, everything is super blurry. So your brain just ignores this moment, and you don't see anything. Your brain just does this saccadic masking automatically. Over the course of the day, your brain just deletes dozens of minutes of visual data, milliseconds at a time, without telling you. Now, illusionists think that your brain is similarly deceptive when you perform introspection. But instead of deleting data that your eyes get, your brain is just completely making stuff up. How are you feeling right now? Think about it. Are you happy, hungry, in pain? Right now, you're analyzing what's going on inside of you. There's some action you are performing right now that involves gathering information about stuff going on inside your head. This is introspection. Illusionists say that while you gather this information, your brain is feeding you lies. One of these lies is that you have phenomenal consciousness. The various properties that you attribute to your own mind, like my consciousness can't be described in the language of physics, is just an illusion. Your brain isn't any more supernatural than a sophisticated computer that has some false assumptions embedded in its representation of reality. So, that's the solution to the hard problem of consciousness. When philosophers ask, where does the phenomenal state of seeing red come from? The answer is, the phenomenal state of seeing red doesn't exist. We just think it exists. I want to note that different illusionists might characterize their views a bit differently than this, but this is the basic idea. Consciousness is an illusion created by the brain. One objection to illusionism is that it has some really weird ethical implications. If someone is experiencing excruciating pain, it seems you have a moral obligation to help in any way you can. But if their pain is just an illusion, then so is this obligation. If a moral obligation is grounded in what someone feels, it just vanishes in a puff of smoke. This is a pretty popular objection to illusionism, and illusionists try to offer an account of how we could have moral obligations without phenomenal consciousness. But I think there's a different route you can go. The destruction of moral obligations isn't a bug, it's a feature. If illusionism is correct, and there is no pain, no suffering, then this massively undercuts the problem of evil. Why doesn't God do something about the suffering in the world? Because there just isn't any suffering in the world to stop. Theists already have a bunch of theodicies to explain why God would allow the existence of a suffering-filled world. For example, giving humans free will results in moral evil and suffering, or suffering can help us cultivate virtue and promote soul building, and so on. But if illusionism is true, God can get all that stuff without anybody actually suffering. So that's the phenomenal illusionism theodicy. God exists, and illusionism is true. we can go on to posit that when we get to heaven, God gives us true phenomenal consciousness instead of just an illusion. Even if brains can't give us true consciousness, God sure can. He is omnipotent. On this view, God ingeniously ensures he gets everything he wants while never actually letting anyone suffer. Now, I don't think that this theodicy single-handedly solves the problem of evil, since some evils aren't related to suffering or conscious experience at all. Maybe you think that being deceived by an illusion is itself an evil. Still, a theodicy that completely explains all apparent suffering is pretty good if you ask me. Unfortunately, I can't bring myself to actually endorse it. I think illusionism is implausible. But I do find this theodicy to be absolutely hilarious. The motivation behind illusionism is a bunch of naturalists saying, hey, we are serious science people, and we believe serious sciencey things. Phenomenal consciousness is basically just magic, and illusionism allows us to do away with the non-physical from our understanding of the world. But my response is, what an intriguing theory! I'm going to use it for theology! Anyways, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Remember, Christ died for our sins and rose again. Goodbye.